language in general, and today I want to carry that discussion a little bit further in really another type of introductory lecture, and then in future ones we'll get into more of the specifics of both of these ideas of language. Today what I want to talk about really is the past in history itself, the idea of history and how history is read and written and how we might even be able to write our own. So first, let's just look about this idea of past, what the past is, what history is. If you think about it, our past, it really helps define us. It helps define who we are. It gives us a strong sense of identity. And it also helps us to direct where our future will go. I mean, simple examples like when you were a child and you would, if you walked out in the street and, you saw a car coming and, you jumped back and, or you ran out in the street and a car might have, hit your skateboard or whatever. What you realize is after you do this enough times, after you do something enough times like getting burned when you touch a stove, you remember that, and that past will help you direct a decision that you'll make in the future not to run out in the street or not to touch that stove. So our immediate past actually helps direct our future, and that past gives us that sense of identity of being a decision maker and a problem solver, not just for childhood things, but as we get older and become adults and we start making decisions. If you make the wrong decision enough times, you will realize that you don't make that decision next time. It might be the specific decision you make, it might be the steps you're going through or the process that you're going through to make that decision, so you'll change those certain things by looking at your past. But it's not just our immediate past that we want to talk about. It's our history. So our past right here, but the history itself, the stronger sense that we have of our history, the stronger again our sense of identity. In history, we're going to take way back, but our history does make us who we are. It makes our identity. Any people who are wanting to take another people over and enslave another people, the first thing that is done is to strip them from their history, because when you strip someone from their history, it takes their sense of identity. And with no sense of identity, they can't, construct or direct their future, so kind of bound to where they're at. Again and again, you see this, whether we're talking about us in the Americas or even back in biblical times with the Egyptians and the Hebrews. You take a person's history and then they can't, you really don't know who you are. You don't have any sense of where you came from, so how do you have any sense of who you are or where you might go? But not only do we look at, our maybe genetic or ancestral history, but the history of our ideas is what I really want to focus on the most, because our ideas tend to make us or make up who we are just as much as, genetically, our bones, our muscles, our tissues make us. So how do our ideas, make us part of who we are? And then how do we read those ideas into the past? Do you know what you believe? Do we know why we believe what we believe? These ideas. We get these ideas from our history, from stories in our history. For example, say us in America. In America, we have an idea of freedom. An idea that we're all free, and that this freedom is some, natural right, an inalienable right given to us by, a creator. And, this is our idea. We get this idea. It was born out of us being, governed by what we called a tyrant, someone who did not give us these rights and who enslaved us by separating us maybe from our history or by other means. So we rose up against this tyrant. We took our history, we fought, our freedom, we fought for our freedom, and now we have our freedom. That kind of give all of us Americans a sense of identity. Our freedom is part of us because that's the way we read our story. Now, just because it's written in a specific history book that way, or just because someone takes those ideas of freedom and connects the dots just like I did, that doesn't mean that every individual does. We all have to connect our own dots, thus write our own story, and thus write our own history in essence. So you could take that idea, if you buy that one, back, but then where do those ideas that people like Jefferson and Franklin come from, those ideas of freedom? Well, you could take them back to England, actually. You read people like Milton, who was writing for people like Cromwell, and then you got all the Renaissance people, Sidney, Spencer, Shakespeare. All of these people wrote about these ideas of inherent freedom, the freedom to, read, whether it's a biblical text or whether it's history itself or whether it's how they're being ruled. And then again, you can travel and take those. What did those people read? Who did they read? Where did those ideas come from? What is the history of those ideas? Why did they believe that idea of freedom? So then they trace it back maybe across Europe, maybe somewhere else through the Carolingians, maybe into Rome, and then where we will eventually in our discussions take them back to ancient and biblical texts themselves. See, that idea of freedom is, for me, it grounds me in what freedom is and where it comes from, because I have that story of freedom, how it came from people who desired freedom and took it, and then so from generation to generation this idea evolved, it grew, it was passed on all the way up through the Middle East into Europe, all the way around Europe into England, and then finally coming here to America. And actually in our next session, we're really going to look at that idea, almost a Foucaultian reading of that idea of history. So we'll kind of trace that idea. Where Foucault had the archaeology of knowledge, we're going to kind of the archaeology of freedom in a way. But as you can see, really, how we write our history can really give us a much stronger sense of identity. So what we need to do, again, is connect our own dots. And when we do so, then we know why we believe what we believe. We're not just taking, what this person told us to believe or what these people told us to believe, and then making our decisions on such, beliefs. When we have a stronger sense on what we're basing our decisions on, it gives us a stronger foundation and actually more confidence in making those decisions. If you like looking at history this way, and again, this is just an introductory look at this idea, but if you really like looking at history this way, you might try, checking out my book. It's called L'Angelica: History Through the Eyes of Angels. What this book attempts to do is what we've just talked about. I took some of the biblical stories, but retold them from the angels' perspectives and points of view who actually participated in those stories. So it gives a sense of history. Many of these stories are the foundation of many ideas in our Western culture, actually, and it tells them from a slightly different perspective, which again asks us to, question why we believe certain things in certain ways, and hopefully it will make our beliefs that much stronger, and that sense of identity that comes from those beliefs that much stronger. You can get that book if you would like by going to Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com and putting in Jerome White under the search, or on the link, on the YouTube page, you just click on the Jerry White link, and there's a link to the Barnes & Noble and Amazon link, or gerrywhite.com as well. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction, just giving you an idea about where we want to go when we look at history and language into the future. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email me or click on my blog. I would love to hear from you about, the book or, about these ideas as well. See you next time.